And a happy Monday to you. Welcome on in to Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, and also sponsored by the home loan expert, Ryan Kelly. I'm Joe Roderick, and as you can see, Claibs once again is on assignment. So I figured after this past weekend's football games, why not get a guy who can talk about them all in depth? So I went to Mizzou Hall of Famer Howard Richards, who joins us now. You can catch his show, Huddle Up with Howard, here on Claibs Online every week. Howard, how you doing, man?
Joe, Happy New Year. We haven't talked in a while, man. I am doing pretty well, other than the fact that I am waiting to have a shoulder replacement surgery, which is coming up early next month. Other than that, I'm fantastic.
I got to imagine after the past weekend of football, too, a guy like yourself just really had to sit back. And even though your Cowboys weren't playing, you still had quite a slate of games.
Listen, the last 2 weekends of football have been pretty exciting for the NFL. I think it's the best that the league could have hoped for from the standpoint of competition. You know, the road teams had a fantastic time last weekend. And then yesterday, those finishes. I mean, the Kansas City Buffalo finish with the two young gunslingers and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. That was must see football. And of course the Rams and Tampa Bay game. You know, two old dogs and Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady. That game in and of itself was not without a lot of excitement too. So we unfortunately or fortunately, won't have the longest two tenured quarterbacks in the league, Tom Brady and
Aaron Rodgers.
The boy from Green Bay. I can't think of his name. Just kidding. Aaron Rodgers. Try to forget about him lately. They will be joining all the other teams on the couch, watching the rest of the playoffs. So it's exciting to have. The teams and the young quarterbacks that are pretty outstanding players in and of themselves to represent the NFL teams the rest of the way.
Lot to get to on the show. We're going to break down all four of those games, a programming note for this weekend before the conference championship games. But first, as you can see, I don't have the normal backdrop behind me. I am here at Bootleggin BBQ, 20th and Washington, here in downtown St. Louis. They are closed today. They are closed on Monday, but they let me in to do the show from here to talk about their big moving party coming up this weekend. So on Saturday, it's going to be buzzing downtown on Saturday. Howard, as I'm sure you're very familiar with, the WWE Royal Rumble is in town this weekend at the Dome. But here at 20th and Washington, here at Bootleggin BBQ, they are going to be having their moving party all day long. They are going to have a whole smoked hog out here, drink specials all day. Basically, they're just trying to get rid of as much as possible to make their move a lot easier for when they reopen coming up in March. They will also have giveaways from the City Museum, from Schlafly, they'll have Blues tickets, and I'm going to be bringing 4 tickets to the Royal Rumble with me here on Saturday too. So 2 chances to win tickets to the Royal Rumble here at Bootleggin BBQ this Saturday. Brent, starts at noon, right? Starts at noon? 1 o'clock. Starts at 1 o'clock, and we will give those Royal Rumble tickets away around 4 or 5 o'clock for the show that starts at the Dome at 6. So let's start it off. So we had you had the games on Saturday and on Sunday, and I'll tell you what, Howard, I went 0 for 4 in my picks this week. 0 for 4.
I went 2 for 2, I think 2 and 2 this weekend, and I was just praying that one of these teams would have won. And as it turns out, the first 2 we got wiped out, and the last 2 games were the ones that came through for me. So I don't know who's in the lead now. I don't know what Claibs is, but I guess the standings will be coming out soon, won't they?
I didn't have a chance to do the standings. Look at the standings so far for us today. We'll have those on Friday as part of Weekend Joe. But I got to tell you, so the Bengals-Titans game, that game was the one that I went back and forth with the most. That was the one that I was the most unsure about. And I guess when you say, when you look at the fact that I went 0 and 4 and you look at how these games ended, it's not that bad. It's not like there were blowouts that you just got completely wrong.
Right.
I mean, each and every one of these came down to the final play of the game, with the game being decided in those. But that Bengals-Titans game, the thing that I was stuck on for that was how the Titans were going to use Derrick Henry. Bringing Derrick Henry back after he was gone for so long, how they were going to acclimate him back into their offense, which finally figured out how to click. And I think going into this weekend was maybe one of the least talked about number one seeds of all time in the NFL playoffs going into this, because of how good and how explosive teams like Buffalo and Kansas City were, and the amount of hype that's around Joe Burrow right now. But when it comes down to it, if you want to, before we get into everything that Joe Burrow and the Bengals did right, is Ryan Tannehill the answer in Tennessee right now?
Listen, Ryan Tannehill is a very smart guy. I will say I like him as a quarterback. He's not at, from a standpoint of, well, I won't say athleticism, because he is a very athletic quarterback. I don't think he has the arm strength or the ability to, what's the word I'm looking for? Improvise that Mahomes or Josh Allen do, or maybe even like a guy like Lamar Jackson. But he's a solid quarterback if he's got pieces around him. Now, two of those three interceptions I saw, I didn't see the entire game. But this game, in all, Tennessee should have won because they sacked Joe Burrow 9 times. In the history of NFL football, no playoff team that has allowed 9 sacks has ever won or anything close to that. So it is amazing that they were able to accomplish what they did. So 2 of those interceptions, one was a great defensive play. It was a tremendous defensive play with the ball. I think it was a cornerback on a blitz, jumped up, got the ball in the throwing lane, tipped it to himself. That's one pick. The second pick that I saw, perfect throw, really good throw by Tannehill right into the receiver's hands. He drops the ball gets deflected. That's another pick. I did not see the third. But his numbers, they only had, I think Tannehill threw 9 incompletions, Burrow threw 8. So in essence, it was the turnovers, I think, that made the difference in this football game. I think Tannehill played well enough, really, minus those interceptions, to get the job done. Here's the thing. It's rare that you're going to see a perfectly played game by a lot of different individuals, even at the quarterback position at this stage. No one should expect a lot of gaudy numbers. If you do, then you know that guy has played outstanding football, because there's so many things that can go wrong. But usually in playoff football, it comes down to really great defense and turnovers that matter. And I think in the Tennessee game, it was the turnovers that was a difference maker, because their defense was playing outstanding. And if they've had a couple more opportunities and a big defense stop by Cincinnati on a third down Derrick Henry run, that I think changed the complexion of that game. Henry, Cincinnati did a really good job. Henry, I think, averaged less than only like 3.1 per carry, only had 62 yards rushing. He looked fine. He didn't look to have any lingering injury effects, but give credit to the Bengals for really bottling him up and making them, they were a balanced team. I mean, they rushed for 140 yards, I think, for the whole game. But, again, it was a masterpiece, really, defensively by the Bengals, and Joe Burrow played well enough to get the win for them. Kudos to him for a young quarterback who came back off of a tough injury and put them in position to be playing for the championship again.
And this is Joe Burrow now. We saw how he ended his career in college, winning the national championship at LSU. Came out and was having a good rookie season before the torn ACL, and then comes out this year and wins the AFC North, and now has won 2 playoff games. He just seems like one of those guys that success follows him no matter where he goes. Whether or not he's putting up the 500-yard passing games or just managing it just to get the victory and putting them in field goal range to win it at the end. It just seems like success is going to keep following this young man.
No, I agree. And listen, this is his second year, right? So much upside. And really this year, especially since he got hurt early last year, it was a significant injury. Having one full season where he stayed healthy, now I think going into year 3, wow, what's the upside for him? You know, if Cincinnati can add a few more pieces to their puzzle, you know, that's a team that's going to be a team that you've really got to pay attention to in that division. So it's exciting to see the new guard coming on, and Burrow is a guy that you really came out of nowhere in that championship game with LSU. They won it all. It seems like he's got the right stuff and is one of those exciting players to watch.
We've seen it over the past few years in the NFL that teams with these highly drafted quarterbacks having success early in their contracts. We saw it with the Rams and Jared Goff. We saw it with the Eagles when they had Carson Wentz, even though Nick Foles was the guy that won the Super Bowl for them. But you're kind of seeing this formula in the NFL where you draft a quarterback high and then you spend your money elsewhere on pieces around it. But have the Bengals gone out and spent that money that we saw the Rams do and we saw the Eagles do when they made their runs?
No, they haven't. And typically the Bengals are very, very conservative with their money. But I will say this: if they have any expectation of repeating their success this year or getting better, they're going to have to spend money along the offensive line because that's been their liability. And again, 9 sacks, no way you should really win. But if you can improve that, you get that guy protection, then listen, you've got someone I think that's going to be he's going to win a bunch of games for you, but you've got to be able to protect him. He's got to be healthy enough to get hit that many times and be sacked that many times does not bode well. You got away with one in this game, but long term, you want to keep his uniform clean going forward.
The other game on Saturday as we move forward to the NFC side of things, it was the 49ers and the Packers. That game up in Lambeau Field. Howard, you have you played in the NFL. You have played in cold temperatures. Have you ever played in a situation like what we saw in Lambeau, 0 degrees on the field up in Green Bay in January?
I've never played in Lambeau, first of all. I've played in New York. I've played in college in Nebraska under those extreme temperatures. It may not have been quite as cold, but, only probably a few degrees warmer in that situation. And you add wind to that, and listen, those conditions are tough. No way would I have expected the 49ers to go in and compete and certainly win that game just because of the conditions alone and because of Aaron Rodgers. Yet they managed to do it. Jimmy Garoppolo, who just a few weeks ago was, had his left thumb operated on. It's just so many things stacked against the 49ers. Yet, listen, their defense is what got it done against Aaron Rodgers. They threw some looks at Rodgers that he hadn't seen or wasn't so comfortable with. And they just made plays. And the 49ers, give credit to Deebo Samuel. That guy has certainly been their most valuable player. He certainly has been in the playoffs. But he's a guy that, once you give him the ball, he's going to make plays all over the field. He did it at South Carolina. I personally witnessed that for a few years when he was there, and I was calling games for Mizzou. A guy just wrecks you. He's an animal. In a positive way. I mean that positively, but he is a force to be reckoned with. He's that team, and a lot of their success goes because of the versatility that he has, not just receiving the ball, but running the ball as a running back out of the backfield, and also yards after the catch once he gets his hands on it.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo, his postseason record is really, really outstanding. When you look at just how much, I think how disrespected maybe he's been looked at over the past few years. He led the team to a Super Bowl. He struggled with some injuries, but in the big games, he's come through for the 49ers.
Which that's what you want, right? I mean, you want a guy that when the stage is large, he's going to perform at his best, and certainly at least outperform his counterpart. And but here's the funny thing about it. They're always trying to replace him. There's so much talk about, will this be his last game? If they lose in the wild card round, will this be his last game? Will they win that game? Will this game be his last game if they lose to the Packers? Well, he goes out and wins this game. That talk's going to continue, and before we know it, he's going to be playing in a Super Bowl and may have a chance to win it. So maybe the talk is about giving Jimmy Garoppolo his just due instead of trying to get rid of him. Because listen, the guy's he's winning. He's winning the big games, and that's what matters.
It's kind of similar. Remember when they had Alex Smith there?
And right.
It was they had Kaepernick who right behind him, but it was always talk of okay, when are we replacing Alex Smith? And he won. He was a good game manager. He won football games, and then he went to Kansas City and then Washington and continued to win there too.
He was one of those guys to me that not a lot of flash with him. But, I mean, he knows how to play the position. He can get it done. Whether it's a game manager or not, the quarterback's running the plays that the team calls for him. But he's able to perform. Then he goes and goes to Washington, wins there, has this devastating injury that not only does it threaten to end his career, but he threatens to have a leg amputated. And the guy still comes back and plays again. I don't know that a lot of players would have made that decision to do it, but I think he proved something to of a lot of the world. That's the guy that when the chips are down, when there's a lot of adversity faced, I'm calling Alex Smith because all he does is get the job done under extreme conditions. It's extreme adversity. But that's the kind of guy you want leading your team, where you get a lot of buy-in from a lot of the players. When you see what he's been through, that you can pick yourself up from your bootstraps and get it done also.
How's this for a professional segue? I'm going to go straight from Alex Smith to the guy that he was drafted number 1 over in the draft so many years ago, Aaron Rodgers, who went to who we might have seen his career in Green Bay come to an end. I don't see, after all the drama going into the offseason and then during the season surrounding Aaron Rodgers, I think Green Bay is just ready to part ways and they're ready to move on with the Jordan Love era.
I wonder about that because Matt LaFleur, says all these great things about Aaron Rodgers, about what a great leader he is, what a great teammate he is. How the guys, reaching out to players around the NFL and making phone calls, wishing guys luck here. It makes him sound like he's a wonderful guy. And he may be. I don't know him personally. I think, he certainly took a hit with the controversy around his coronavirus vaccination status. I think he hurt his image, certainly by not being honest with people. But, long term, what does it do to him? I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be back in Green Bay, but, he's still healthy. Why do you want to get rid of the guy when he's still performing at a high level? I don't know that that's a mistake that you really want to make. But again, I'm not the one calling the shots, Joe. You and I are not doing that. So people are saying they want to move on from him, but I don't know that that's the wisest thing. Figure out what it's going to take to keep Aaron Rodgers happy and keep him there as long as he's performing, at an MVP level. Why do you want to get rid of him?
And he might not want to play either. He might decide that he just wants to walk away from the game, completely. So it might not be a case of, what options are out there for him. He could just be done with it.
He could be. And, listen, it would be within his right to do so. And you hope that if he makes a decision to walk away from the game, that he does it sooner rather than later to give his backup the opportunity to know that he's going to be the guy and prepare as though it's going to be his team. Because I could see Rodgers, he's one of those deceptive types. You never know. He may decide to go through training camp and right before the season starts, decide to walk away. Which, that would be just enough of a little carrot or tease, and then he just takes it away. Or holds out or whatever the case may be. Who knows with him?
One of the things you saw making the rounds this weekend was the fact that over the past 30 years now, the Packers had Brett Favre, followed by Aaron Rodgers, and won a total of 2 Super Bowls. And while that's being mocked, there are plenty of organizations over the last 30 years that would have loved to be in 2 conference championship games, let alone winning 2 Super Bowls, that have not done that. So in the long run, when you have 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks over 3 decades, you'd like a little bit more success. But I think to put it all into perspective, Peyton Manning only won 2 Super Bowls, and that was across two franchises. Not everybody can be Tom Brady and have multiple hands with rings on him.
You have to look at a guy like Brady, Montana, truly the gold standards, but they are also truly the exceptions to go out and win multiple Super Bowls. Those are the enigmas of the game. That's not going to happen. That's not normal for any one individual player or for a lot of teams to be able to make those types of runs. So if you're a Packers fan, it's easy to be upset and want to rant and rave and have tantrums, but look at the body of your work over the last 30 years, having those 2 quarterbacks, how much success they've had. People get to watch good football, right? Their teams are usually in the hunt minus a couple of years. And I think that's, that's pretty good. Would you rather be Green Bay or would you rather be Jacksonville right now?
Right. And I think you could draw parallels to that to here in St. Louis with the Cardinals. 22 years of uninterrupted success. You've had, 2 subpar years, 2 years that I'm not talking about playoffs every year, but you're talking about over 500 for 22 straight years, or 20 out of 22 years, whatever it's been, with just 2 World Series. And how many other organizations, fan bases over the past 20 years would have just loved to be in the hunt every single year, have a chance in September every single year. And, I don't know, maybe it's a Chicago thing because the Cubs want to mock the Cardinals when they get knocked out, just like Bears fans wanted to mock the Packers when they got knocked out. At least they're there. At least they made it that far. That's
right. And all you got to do is look at the amount of world championships. Behind the Yankees, the Cardinals lead the pack. And I don't even know which team comes in third. But the Cardinals
have the A's. I want to say the A's.
And they have 5 world championships? Oakland does? Is that right?
I feel like it's a few more than that. I don't know.
But it's not like they're 1 or 2 behind the Cardinals. Right. They've got a number of years to go. But just saying, if you look at the Cardinals in their 2021 season, they were written off. And all Mike Schilt does is, he throws out all the analytics and all that and says, let's just play baseball. And because I know how to manage a team that can just play baseball by, hard work and grit and just being aggressive. And he reels off 17 straight and gets his team to the playoffs when everyone else. So, that accounts for something. But I think that falls into the mystique of your organization.
Yeah.
That teams respect you because they know year in, year out, you're probably going to be there. And that should account for something. And I think with the Cardinals, it does. And I think with teams like the Green Bay Packers, to some extent the Dallas Cowboys, those things should matter.
Absolutely. Hey, so there we go. We covered the Saturday games. We are going to cover those Sunday games in just a bit. But first, a quick word from our friend Ryan Kelly.
The only thing faster than this supersonic golf cart are the closing times at thehomeloanexpert.com. Mortgage rates on the 2s, and we have a 21-day closing guarantee. Apply online today at thehomeloanexpert.com.
And Ryan Kelly he's been pushing hard for his 2022 Climb for the Kids that you can find online. If you go and search for the Climb for the Kids, you can see where all they are headed for 2022. And I know he's trying to get me out there to climb one of those mountains this year. I was looking at the schedule. I was looking at those dates the other day, and I need to talk to Ryan about which ones might work out for me this year. Yeah,
man. Well, Joe, we know you're an elite athlete anyway, man. You've run how many marathons and triathlons and Ironmans and all that, dude.
I haven't done the Ironman yet. I have not done the Ironman yet.
Yet.
That is on the schedule or on the to-do list at some point. But I have my next half coming up February 6th. I'm flying out for Radio Row week for Super Bowl week. I'm flying out and I'm running a half in Huntington Beach coming up on February 6th before I head up to LA for the week. So that's the next one on the schedule. And then I haven't gotten I'm on the wait list for one, Howard, that I think you'll like this. I'm planning on doing the Holy Half up at Notre Dame in early April. That's you just run. It's 13 miles around the campus of Notre Dame. And I've never been to South Bend, so that's one that I'm looking forward to hopefully getting in on.
That'll be fun. That whole setting on that campus, the Golden Dome and Touchdown Jesus, and having been on that campus once and won a football game in that iconic stadium, that'll be pretty special. You'll have a lot of goosebumps when you see it, and hopefully it will propel you to do very well. I'll be rooting you on, man, from the sidelines. Who knows? Claibs and I might even drive over to South Bend and with cups of water cheering you on. So
that one, I'm on a wait list for that one. That one filled up. It's a popular one up there. So that's to be determined. So here you go. On Sunday, again, I mean, you have those two games. We talked about the ending of them. The road teams win each of the games on Saturday with a last-second field goal. And then, I don't know. So watching the first game on Sunday, watching the Rams at the Bucs, it was so weird. First of all, it was weird watching a game that Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth were calling during the daytime.
Right?
Yeah, it was weird watching that. It was also weird watching a Tom Brady playoff game in the daytime because you're just used to him in the cold Lambeau, dark primetime games in the postseason. So to see him just playing in the middle of the afternoon, it seemed. I think I saw somebody on Twitter say it was like seeing your teacher at the grocery store. It was that kind of like. It was that kind of just awkwardness of seeing that, but I think the whole city of St. Louis was rooting for Tom Brady in a playoff game, which makes it even more
so weird. Yeah, exactly.
So I think we know of Tom Brady's legendary career. We know of all the accolades, and we know that he is going to. Basically, when they announce his candidacy for the Hall of Fame, it's going to be one of those stand-ups, announce him, sit down in that room when they have to debate it. Matt Stafford is really making a name for himself after just so many years of just, being stowed away in Detroit and playing for really bad Lions teams. We're getting to see him. We're getting to see the Matt Stafford that we all, I think, assumed was there talent-wise, now playing with elite talent all around him.
And now you know why Sean McVay wanted him. Good eye for him. Good eye for the talent that he possessed. And, he showcased the whole reason why he was the guy for their offense. I mean, he went 28 of 38, threw for well over 300 yards, no interceptions, 2 touchdown passes. And essentially he outplayed Tom Brady. But I think you've got to give credit, and I said this on the Friday shows with on the press box with Frank Cusimano and Greg Riggins, that if the Rams were going to have a chance to win that game against Brady, they had to do it with defense and pressuring Brady. And that's what they did. I think they sacked him 3 times, and I'm not sure how many times they hit him, but they affected the quarterback. And, although the Rams almost tried to give it away to them, didn't they? They're up 27-3. And of course, we saw Brady being down 28-3 against the Falcons in a Super Bowl and come back and win. So I don't think anyone really felt safe or comfortable that that the Rams had a comfortable enough lead. I didn't. I'm just sitting back like this, like, okay. At any moment, TB12 is going to come back and work his magic. And sure enough, he was right there at the very end. That's what makes it exciting, because I don't know we'll ever see as good as Mahomes is, and Josh Allen and Brady, Burrow. I'm sorry, not Brady, Burrow. As good as these guys are now, can they ever achieve what Brady has done in his career? I'm not so sure it can happen. We've seen, certainly no one will ever eclipse that. I just don't believe that'll happen. We have seen the best, and he wears number 12 for the Buccaneers. But at some point, for whatever reason, either one's skills diminish, the pieces around you degrade. It just wasn't and Brady probably knew that too. It just wasn't going to be the year for the Buccaneers. And the Rams did a fantastic job with bringing in additional talent. Odell Beckham on the offense is one of the guys that they brought in. Of course, Von Miller, they traded for him, and the trade for Matt Stafford seemingly have worked out for them, even though they had a lull in the season. But it only matters when you get into the playoffs. And right now, they're on a roll, and they're playing in the NFC Championship game next week.
We'll talk about the 13-second drive for Patrick Mahomes here in a second, but the play that won it for the Rams at the end was the 44-yard pass to Cooper Kupp down the middle. As a defensive-minded guy, how does that happen? How does a play that big happen in that situation at the end of the game there?
Well, I can't remember if it was Kupp or if I was thinking about in the Kansas City game with Kelsey. Listen, you got to hit these receivers when they come off the line of scrimmage. You've got to be able to do something to try to redirect those routes and affect the timing between quarterback and receiver. And, communication on defense is really, aside from really good play, man, if you don't communication, we saw a number of communications breakdowns this weekend that cause those big plays. These guys, what's his name? Mahomes, even Stafford, all these guys that are playing this weekend, they have the ability to chew you up and spit you out if you make those mistakes. And if you don't do something as simple as holding up, getting your hands and jamming that receiver, coming off the ball, then you're just asking for trouble, because now he can figure out, how you're playing. He can read those defenses as well. These guys work on this stuff. I read some article, I heard some conversation, how Cooper Kupp and Matt Stafford, meet before practice and the meetings and talk about this stuff. And I think it's actually kind of cool. Outside of what they're paid to do during their team meetings and on the practice field, they're still talking about ways that they can improve their own personal relationship and read each other's minds. And to me, that's what makes a difference in games like this. And listen, again, if you're not prepared, to play every down like it's the last, you can get beat in this league. And, you witnessed that in those games yesterday.
We saw the last time we saw the Rams host the 49ers, it was week 18, and it was a sea of red. The 49ers fans, they traveled down to SoFi Stadium, they packed the place, and Matt Stafford complained about the sound there. He couldn't call plays. It was too loud for him. The Rams went out of their way to try to restrict fans from the San Francisco area to buy tickets to this NFC Championship game. And not only did it not work. Yeah. Was it Matt Stafford? Matt Stafford's wife made comments. I saw Andrew Whitworth's wife also made comments about it too, begging fans.
Don't sell your tickets to 49ers fans. How cool is that? That's pretty cool.
I think she also came out too and apologized and said that she was drinking and said that it was a stupid thing to tweet. But I did like that when she came out with that, Joe Staley and Frank Gore came out the other way and said, hey, LA 49er fans, help out your San Francisco 49er fans and buy tickets for them. Venmo. They'll Venmo you the money, and figuring it out and seeing that. You know what? That's easy to do for when the teams are spread apart. But you're talking about, how many years did LA not have a football team that they, people in LA became 49ers fans. They became Raiders fans. They went elsewhere, Charger fans. And that was never going to be easy to do. But the fact to come out with it just makes that organization look really, really bad trying to keep fans from coming to the game.
Yeah, it's one of those anomalies in football that, they just make you want to, scratch your head. How does this work? The other thing is, if I'm not mistaken, the 49ers have won like 6 straight games over the Rams in 3 years. Is that –
really? I didn't know. I didn't know it that far back.
Check that stack. I think 3 years. I think they're like 6-0 against the Rams in the last 3 years, because they played at the very end of the season.
Yeah, they lost them twice this year. Yeah, they're 0-2 against them this year. So
yeah, I think it goes back to maybe 2018, maybe the last year that the Rams have beaten the 49ers. So what are we going to expect this Sunday? I'm still leaning towards, I think, with the Rams, the Rams' weapons, and I think maybe it just might be their time to get back there with the way Stafford is playing and the way the defense is playing. I think they're going to be inspired, knowing that they'll be a step away to get it done. But listen, that's why they play the games, because we can't concede and call a winner on paper, because we all know that it just doesn't work that way.
So we've made you wait about 35 minutes now before we dive into this Chiefs and Bills game that we saw last night. The NFL really did save the best for last. And as I mentioned, we're out here at Bootleggin BBQ over at Bootleggin Bob's. They're one of their other bars that they own here. They had a huge party yesterday. All the staff are huge. Owners are huge Chiefs fans, but then the manager down there, a huge Bills fan. So I can't imagine what the tension was like just throughout that entire game. I'm going to ask this first. Is Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, is this the next generation of Brady versus Manning?
Yeah, why not? And maybe even better, because these guys have that additional skill set that Manning and Brady did not have. They can beat you also with their legs. Their improvisation game, I think, is better than what we saw with Manning and Brady. I think collectively they both are more athletic. Josh Allen goes like 6'7", 250. Who wants to hit this dude? I mean, when he's running down him, when he gets out of the pocket, I mean, no one wants to tackle him. And he rushed for like, I don't know, 500-600 yards this year. I mean, One game he led the team in rushing. That's insane. That's insane. You're a quarterback having that much success on the ground, but still being able to make plays with his arms. I mean, you've seen a guy that came from a somewhat obscure program at Wyoming. Yeah, which is the year that Missouri played Wyoming at home. Was the year Josh Allen declared for the draft, so I'm glad Missouri didn't have a chance to face him that game, because who knows what would have happened. But, he has really, I think every year he has elevated his play, and he's among the best in the league, for his young quarterback. I like his spirit. I like what he brings to the quarterback position. Seems to be a very humble guy. I know personally he raises money for cancer in some way. I think he had a relative or a grandmother maybe that passed away from cancer. So he does a lot of great things in the offseason in Buffalo, and it's hard to root against a guy like that. I mean, I think he's being tied into the community and endeared himself to that community in Buffalo. Plus, he's playing lights out football. The sky's the limit for him. It's a shame that both teams can't win. And I think we need to get to talk about the Kansas City Buffalo game. We may have to discuss this whole overtime rule thing, because I think it's time to make a change that the NFL needs to change the overtime rules.
Do they we've seen a change recently. We saw the change a few years ago where it can't end immediately on a field goal, where if somebody kicks a field goal, the other team will get possession of the ball, but it can end on a touchdown, which we saw the Chiefs do in the game. Is the option to go the college route and just start both teams on the 35 and go from there? Do you play a full quarter out and do that? what's going to work?
I like kind of like the college model because it's actually shorter. You can decide these games much more quickly, which is, I think that's what everyone wants, especially in the college game, because these games are so long. You stop the clock so many times in college football. I think in the NFL, the overall games are much quicker, shorter, if you will. But I think teams like Buffalo, anyone could represent the AFC right now in the championship game. I think you have to have equal possessions. It's really not fair to a team like Buffalo. And I was pulling for Kansas City just because of there's no team in St. Louis anymore, and there's a couple of guys, a former teammate of mine at Mizzou that's one of the assistant coaches for the Chiefs, Andy Hill. I think it's only fair that the other team has an opportunity to do the same. And then, if you've had equal possessions, then may the best team win at that point. I think there's a fairness level there. But to decide the game really on a coin toss and whoever scores first in the form of a touchdown, I don't know. It just seems like it's time for the NFL to continue evolving and make it fair. Because certainly if you're any team other than the Chiefs, you could be in that situation one day. And the Chiefs fans probably are feeling very lucky that the rule is the way it was, because once you score, they're not going to get another opportunity to challenge that.
I went into the weekend not only I initially said that the winner of that game, the Chiefs and Bills game, that was your Super Bowl representative to the AFC. That without a doubt, that was your AFC championship game. I think after watching that game, that was your Super Bowl. That right there was you're not going to get. I think those two teams were the best two teams left, and they're the most complete teams left in the playoffs. And to play this early, you know what? Hey, we got a hell of a game. We got an instant classic out of it. Mm-hmm. It just, could you have imagined that game being in LA in prime time on Super Bowl Sunday and having that be the game that we watched there? It would have been incredible.
I totally agree. And of course, you hope that whoever the eventual Super Bowl participants are, that you'll have that type of game, because a lot of times in history, Super Bowls have not been that exciting. They've been a lot of one-sided. Although lately, I think they've been a lot more competitive. There's been more balance in the games, but yeah, that one, I don't know that you ever. How do you eclipse that in a playoff game? I mean, the excitement. I mean, the last second win, overtime. It's just crazy. How do you score? I don't know how many yards they went. How do you do that in 13 seconds? I mean, Patrick Mahomes is insane, but that Kansas City Chiefs offense. I mean, they've got so many weapons. I mean, my goodness, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You've got Mecole Hardman. You've got Travis Kelce. And you've got little Tim, the little jitterbug. I mean, how do you eclipse that? How do you stop these guys? My goodness. I mean, it's just – and then you got a quarterback like Mahomes who could kill you in every single way. He's smart. Guy's good looking. He can make plays. I mean, it's just – man, it's the NFL's got a winner here with this team and how they represent the league and the sport.
They got to do something about his brother, though. They got to figure out. They got to do something about his brother. They get rid of him somehow. Just let him stop him from coming to games, and then they're all set. They got the next face of the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I don't know if I have a comment on that one, but maybe you leave that up to mom and dad to figure out. Hey, we got one son that's achieving, this other one we got to figure out what to do with him.
Okay. So you have, I know Patrick Mahomes, great talent, but what was it? 188 yards that he passed for from 2 minutes with the 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter into overtime. There are teams that would love to pass for 188 yards in a game, and he's doing it in that situation with that offense. And yet Eric Bieniemy is once again being overlooked for some of these jobs. The Broncos have already announced they're moving on. They're not going to hire him as the next head coach. They're going to move on. What is it going to take for someone like him to get a head coaching job.
It's going to take someone like you or me to become an owner or hiring manager in an NFL team to say, all right, my first call is going to be to Eric Bieniemy and say, what's it going to cost? What's it going to take to get you here? Because you're my guy. I mean, I mean, it's.
I don't care at this point. I mean, what does he? I mean, who gives a shit if he interviews bad? I mean, look at what he's putting out there on the field. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. And come on, a guy like, listen, no offense to Joe Judge, but why was he ever considered a legitimate head coaching candidate? Because of the coaching tree, I suppose.
Or Dan Campbell and all of the comments that he, his biting the kneecaps and all the other stuff that he did. And it's astounding that they just keep passing him over four AFC championship games in a row. And he keeps getting passed over.
You know what would be cool? I mean, probably like a Hard Knocks version of teams interviewing head coaches to see what that process is all about. Yeah, and really, I don't know why it couldn't be made public, but we keep hearing about it, but yet we never know why a team chooses not to hire someone. It will be interesting to hear why teams have moved on away from Eric Bieniemy. What is it? Is it because he's an African-American candidate? I don't know. There's only one right now in the NFL, and that's Mike Tomlin at the Pittsburgh Steelers. To me, and everyone sings his praises. Why hasn't he? I want to know. And I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast wants to know as well why he's not getting that opportunity. But there's still time. I mean, right now, no one's made a coaching hire. Maybe this is all smoke and mirrors, and he finally gets that job after the season's over for this team.
And you know what? At what point do the Chiefs, Andy Reid, after this season, is going to turn 64 years old? He turned 64 in March. Do the Chiefs at some point just go and say, hey, you know what? You are the next head coach whenever Andy Reid decides to hang it up, because he's getting there. I mean, Andy Reid has been coaching for a very, very long time. When does he want to finally step away from the game of football? And do you just hand it right over to Bieniemy after that?
Yeah, and that's a good point. And maybe that's one of those intangibles that we don't know. And let's face it, Andy Reid has had some health challenges of late, and we know how stressful this game can be and how difficult it can be on one's health. So obviously we don't know when that time will be, but listen, I guess if you are a Chiefs fan or, part of the Chiefs organization, only you kind of know that. If you are an insider there, maybe that is the case. Who knows? He could walk away. Andy Reid could walk away this year if they win the Super Bowl. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? And then just hand the reins over to Bieniemy. But no one's heard from Bieniemy. I would love to hear his take on how things have developed with regard to the interviews that he's had. That's going to be one heck of a book or article to read whenever that story is told, wouldn't you say?
Just to hear if he decides to speak out on stuff like that, and you always want it, but it always seems like the guys will just keep it under wraps or keep things close after something this long. After they've waited this long for something like that. So there you go, all four of the games. There you go. On Sunday, Howard, me, you, and Mike Claiborne. He's going to be back from wherever he's off vacationing this week, and he will. The three of us will be coming to you live at 11 a.m. on Sunday morning to preview the AFC and the NFC championship games right here on Claibs Online. You can watch it on our Twitter, our Facebook, and our YouTube page. We'll break down both games coming up at 11 a.m. on Sunday, and then the replays will be up before kickoff at 2 o'clock locally. We will take another break, and after this Ameren Minute, we will have wrap things up here on the show for today.
The pandemic has been the ultimate game changer for many companies, and Ameren, Illinois is no exception. President and Chairman Richard Mark tells us how they've worked with their customers who may have been harshly impacted by COVID.
The pandemic has really caused some unprecedented changes and challenges for all industries. And, for us, since we provide that vital service, we understand customers have to have it. And so with the pandemic, many people were out of work, didn't know when they were going back to work. So some of the things that we tried to do was say, how do we help those customers along? How do we provide some money to make it available if they couldn't pay their bill? How could we maybe suspend late fees and late payments and those types of things? So what we try to do is work with our customers. We provided last year over $26 million in billing assistance for customers to help. And basically, if the customers couldn't pay, we didn't cut anyone off and tried to just understand what was going on in the communities. And I think that's really the real core and basis of what we try to do.
Wrapping things up here, it's lunch with Claibs and Joe coming to you live from Bootleggin BBQ again this Saturday. It's their big moving party starting at 1 o'clock. They're going to have a whole smoked hog, and they are looking to get rid of as much of their the bottles and alcohol and stuff that they have here at the location at 20th and Washington before they make their move to the Grove. So that'll be coming up at the end of March. In the spring is when they'll be moving out there. So come out here, buy as much of their stuff as possible, and make their move a lot easier. And I'll be here on Saturday giving away 2 pairs of tickets to the WWE Royal Rumble, which is this Saturday at the Dome. Howard, who you got in the Rumble this year?
Well, I'd have to look at the lineup. Listen, truth be told, I've not been a follower of the sport. I go way back to wrestling at the Chase. Andre the Giant, Dick the Bruiser, Rufus R. Jones, those guys. I honestly, I could not tell you, but I think
you know what, you would be impressed these days with how many former college football players have become big stars on the roster this year. Guys that were no names in college football, and everybody knows the name of Brock Lesnar. Guys like him, but other guys that played college football, tried to make it in the pros and didn't, and then went the route of pro wrestling and have now become big names in the industry.
Well, these guys are, listen, we know that the training regimens, especially those that have played college football, are just off the chains. And these guys, they're so well conditioned. They look like, in some cases, Greek gods just kind of carved out of stone. But it makes for an exciting, I think, experience if you like that sport. And it has a tremendous following. So I think for the fans that show up, they know that these guys that didn't quite make it in one sport have the ability to sort of, capture that audience's attention and make it big in another sport. I had a teammate of mine at Mizzou, a guy named Jeff Gaylord, who actually, had one good season at Mizzou, was a Kodak All-American, appeared on the Bob Hope special as an All-American, and then went on and had a pretty good career as a wrestler. I won't say what he did after that, but it's a whole other story. But he had a good career as a wrestler.
The WWE just started an NIL program, a name, image, likeness program, where they are looking at college athletes, and they just signed their whole first class of college athletes that to an NIL contract where, hey, when you're done playing, if you're not going to go pro, consider coming and start training for us. And that's, when you talk about, thinking ahead and looking ahead, if professional, if you're a football player, think of some of the big guys on that Mizzou football team right now, and think of some of the ones that have charisma and some of the guys that are always, talking, and guys that could cut a promo and be entertaining in that kind of industry. If the NFL isn't in their future, I'm sure there's a few in that locker room that you can think of right now that would be great for a future occupation for them.
Yeah, every team has its own colorful characters that can go off and be successful in other arenas, but certainly in the wrestling arena. And why not? It beats working for a living, right? If you get paid a bunch of money and to hawk products and services, yeah, why not? At least have some fun for a few years while you're making money before you have to go and sit behind a desk and toil for the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Hey, last night, Howard, the Blues West Coast game. They're out west. They played the Kraken the other day, and then the Canucks last night. A nice little roll that they're on here in the month of January. You were just at the game last Monday. You were out there and hanging out with the new coach of the St. Louis City SC team. And I saw, you guys were just having a good old time when the Kraken were in town a few weeks ago. But the Blues right now are playing some really, really good hockey. 2 losses in the month of January. That really rough loss in Pittsburgh after the Winter Classic game. And then the shootout, so that we saw the 11-goal game that we saw them lose to the Maple Leafs too. But the Blues, just for all of the ups and downs they've had health-wise this season, still staying one of the best teams in the Western Conference.
Listen, I think it goes back to the leadership that Tom Stillman has built with this club. Their front office guys, I think, are all extremely capable and very smart and savvy. It's a well-run organization. I think Craig Berube is one of those coaches who, I won't say he shuns the spotlight, but I think he's the right guy at the right time for this team. It knows how to get the best out of his players. Seems to make all the right decisions. And he's managing it again through COVID, some missing some players and all that. And he's got an all-star in Jordan Kyrou. It seems like there might have been more guys that made the all-star team, but he's got 2 good, solid goalies. It's all set up for them again if they stay healthy and continue in this run. They may ultimately be a better team than the team that won the Cup a couple years ago. I think they've got the stability. I think they've just made the right personnel decisions over the years, and they're playing at a level that I think a lot of teams would envy. The Blues have figured out a way to get it right, and it just goes to show you. I'm jumping off a little bit here, but that whole thing, the taste that the Rams leaving St. Louis, that says that St. Louis is not a good sports town. Are you kidding me? The support that the Cardinals have always gotten, the Blues have always gotten great support, and it's getting even better. I mean, there are people that were not even hockey fans that love the sport now and love watching it and are wearing Blues paraphernalia as a result of that Cup win. But they've been able to capitalize. But again, you've got a team that looks like it's certainly going to be a playoff team, but a team that could challenge for the Stanley Cup again. I like this team. I like the way they handle themselves publicly. No issues. Even Tarasenko, with all the controversy in the offseason, he's a guy that, to me, you can't put a whole lot of stock into all the stuff you hear, but he's been a good teammate as well, and maybe he decides to stay here and finish his career in St. Louis. I think that would be a benefit for this club. He's still a good player.
He is Howard Richards. I am Joe Roderick. This has been Lunch with Claibs and Joe. Claibs will be back. Well, he'll be back next on Sunday for a special Huddle Up with Howard, a Conference Championship edition, 11 a.m. on Sunday. Me, Claibs, Howard, all 3 of us breaking down the 2 games coming your way on Sunday. The AFC game is first, so you're going to get Chiefs hosting the Bengals in that first one, and then ending with the Rams and the 49ers on Sunday night. If you missed any of the show today, it'll be up on YouTube later on this afternoon, along with the audio versions up on the podcast sites. Wherever you find your podcast, you can find it right there. Just search for Claibs Online in your podcast app. Howard, thank you so much. I will talk to you on Sunday.
Thanks, Joe. Hey, a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in, 6 days?
Absolutely. And I will hopefully see some of you viewers and listeners this Saturday here at Bootleggin BBQ. 20th in Washington is where you can find us, starting at 1 o'clock, a whole smoked hog and plenty of giveaways. It gets you after a while. You got to figure out which way to point when you're doing the video. I know it's tough. It takes a little bit to learn how to do that and how to master that.
It's like trying to back up a trailer, right? Everything is opposite. If you back up a trailer, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Hey, this has been Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura, and sponsored by Ryan Kelly, the home loan expert. Find them online at thehomeloanexpert.com.
St. Louis Acura was the #1 Acura dealer in Missouri in 2021, and we were the 17th in the nation for Acura sales volume. We sell over 100 pre-owned vehicles monthly, and we service all of the makes and models that we sell. We are waiting for verification of our 30th Acura Precision Team Award, the only dealer in the nation with so many awards for customer satisfaction and dealership performance. We have 300 pre-owned vehicles in stock right now. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.